"Those bags are yours, Eleanor. We thought it would be easier if you were already packed." Lauren said it as if she were telling me the weather, standing in the middle of my bedroom with one hand resting on her hip while 6 black trash bags leaned against the dresser I had shared with my husband for more than 30 years. I stopped in the doorway and looked at them. My navy cardigan was hanging halfway out of one bag. A pair of shoes Richard bought me for our 40th anniversary was wedged under another. On the bed, my jewelry box sat open, empty except for a few old costume pieces Lauren apparently hadn't considered worth moving. "Packed for what?" I asked. My voice sounded calmer than I felt. Lauren gave me that patient smile she used when she wanted to make me feel slow. "Michael and I found a place for you. It's a nice assisted living community about 20 minutes from here. They have meals, transportation, activities. You'll be better off." I looked past her. If you enjoy family betrayal stories, hidden wills, and mothers who finally receive justice, subscribe to EverNest Stories. More powerful stories are coming every day. My son was standing in the hallway near the stairs, staring at the floor. Michael was 43 years old, broad-shouldered like his father, but at that moment he looked smaller than I remembered him. "You found a place for me," I repeated. "Without asking me." Lauren exhaled softly. "We knew you'd resist. This house is too much for you now." The house. Not my house. Not the home Richard and I had paid for month by month, repaired storm by storm, and filled with Christmas mornings, birthday cakes, and every ordinary Tuesday that makes up a marriage. Just the house. I stepped inside and pulled my cardigan free from the nearest bag. Something crackled inside the lining. I shook it once and a yellowed envelope slipped out and landed near Lauren's shoes. Her face changed before I even bent down. It was only for a second, but I saw it. The smile vanished. Her shoulders tightened. "Give me that," she said. I picked up the envelope. My name was written across the front in Richard's handwriting. Eleanor Whitmore. No stamp. No return address. Just my name. "What is it?" Michael asked from the hall. Lauren moved closer. "Probably old paperwork. I'll put it with the estate files." I looked at her, then at the envelope. "I can manage my own paperwork." Her jaw tightened. I opened it just enough to see the top page. Property deed. My breath caught, but I kept my face still. The address printed beneath the heading was mine. 214 Hawthorne Lane, Richmond, Virginia. Then I saw my name. Not Michael's. Not Richard's estate. Mine. Lauren reached for the papers. I folded the envelope closed before she could touch it and slipped it into the pocket of my coat. "Eleanor, this isn't the time to get confused about legal documents." That sentence told me more than she intended. I turned toward Michael. "Did you know she packed my clothes?" He finally looked at me. "Mom, we're just trying to make this easier." Easier. That word hung in the room like dust in sunlight. I looked at the bags again, then at the dresser, then at the framed photograph of Richard and me on our 25th anniversary. I could almost hear him saying what he always said whenever someone rushed me into a decision. "Read everything first." "I'll need until tomorrow," I said. Lauren's eyes narrowed. "Tomorrow for what?" I slipped my hand into my pocket and felt the edge of the envelope. "To decide what belongs in those bags." She stared at me. Michael said nothing. I walked past both of them and closed the bathroom door behind me. Only then did I lock it. I took out the deed, unfolded the first page, and noticed something stapled behind it. Another document. Another date. Another signature. Mine. Except I had never signed it. The signature looked close enough to fool someone who had never watched me sign my name, but I knew every curve of my own handwriting. The E leaned too far forward. The W was narrow and sharp. I always made mine wide because Richard used to tease me that it took up half the page. I sat on the closed toilet lid and read the document again, slowly this time. It was dated 4 months earlier, during the week I had been recovering from knee surgery at St. Mary's Hospital. According to the paper, I had transferred ownership of my home to something called Hawthorne Residential Holdings, Limited Liability Company. I read the name twice. I had never heard of it. My hand stayed steady until I reached the final page. There was a notary seal beneath my supposed signature. I stared at the date. March 18th. On March 18th, I had been in a hospital room arguing with a nurse because I wanted real coffee instead of the weak cup they served with breakfast. Michael had visited that afternoon. Lauren had come with him. She had brought flowers and offered to take some paperwork home, so I would not have to worry about bills while I recovered. At the time I had thought it was kindness. Now that memory felt different. I took out my phone and photographed every page. Then I emailed the pictures to myself, something Richard had taught me years ago after I once lost a folder of tax records. Keep copies somewhere nobody can accidentally throw them away, he had said. I almost smiled at the memory. Outside the bathroom, I heard Lauren speaking in a low voice. I could not make out every word, but I heard my name, then the word deed. Michael answered, quieter. She probably does not understand what she found. Lauren said something I could not hear. Then Michael replied, just let me talk to her. I folded the papers exactly as I had found them and put them back inside the envelope. For a few seconds I looked at myself in the mirror. 70 years old. Silver hair that needed trimming. Tired eyes from 2 years of learning how to live without Richard. I did not look dangerous. That was probably why they had become so comfortable deciding things for me. I unlocked the door. Lauren was waiting near the bedroom, pretending to straighten one of the trash bags. Michael stood beside the window. Mom, he began, we need to have a practical conversation. Not tonight. This is important. So is reading before I sign anything. Lauren turned too quickly. Nobody asked you to sign anything. I looked at her. She looked back. Neither of us moved. Good, I said. Then we agree. I walked to the dresser and took my purse. Lauren watched my hand as I placed the envelope inside. Where are you going? She asked. For coffee. Michael glanced at the clock. It is almost 7. Coffee still exists after 7. Richard would have appreciated that answer. I took my car keys from the bowl downstairs and drove 3 miles to a diner near Monument Avenue. The kind of place with red vinyl booths and coffee that came in heavy white mugs. I ordered 1 cup and sat by the window. Then I searched my phone for the name Hawthorne Residential Holdings. A business listing appeared. Registered in Virginia. Formed 5 months ago. The address was not mine. I knew it anyway. It was Michael and Lauren's townhouse. I stared at the screen until the waitress quietly refilled my cup. 5 months ago. 1 month before my surgery. Someone had planned this before I ever went into the hospital. I closed the page and opened my contacts. There was one person Richard had always trusted with paperwork. He did not understand himself. Thomas Reed. I had not spoken to him since Richard's estate was settled. I looked at the time, then typed a short message instead of calling. Thomas, this is Eleanor Whitmore. I found something involving my house that I do not understand. I need you to look at it before anyone knows I called you. I sent it, placed my phone face down on the table, and took a slow sip of coffee. For the first time that evening, I was no longer wondering whether Lauren and Michael were trying to move me out. I was wondering how long they had been preparing to do it. Thomas called me at 8:15 the next morning. I was already awake, sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee growing cold beside me and Richard's old reading glasses folded near my hand. I had not slept much. Every ordinary sound in the house had felt different during the night. The furnace turning on. The refrigerator humming. A car passing outside on Hawthorne Lane. I kept thinking about how easily a person could live inside a home for more than 30 years, and suddenly discover that someone else had been making plans for it. Eleanor, Thomas said, I saw the photographs you sent. Do not sign anything. Do not leave the house. And do not give anyone the original deed. His voice was calm, but there was a firmness in it I remembered from the day Richard and I first met him. Is the second document real? I asked. It is a real document in the sense that it was prepared and filed. That does not mean the signature is valid. I looked toward the hallway. Michael and Lauren had left the night before, but Lauren had said she would return before lunch to finish packing. Can you check who owns the house right now? I asked. I already did. Thomas paused. The county records show a recent filing connected to Hawthorne Residential Holdings. I need to examine the chain of title carefully, but something about it does not look right. I felt my fingers tighten around the coffee mug. The company belongs to Michael and Lauren. I found the registered address. Yes. For several seconds neither of us spoke. Then Thomas asked me a question that changed the way I remembered the previous 3 months. When did Lauren start handling your paperwork? I leaned back in my chair. After Richard died, she helped occasionally. But after my surgery, she took over more. Bills. Some. Mail. Yes. Bank statements. I thought about it. I stopped getting paper statements around April. Lauren said she switched me to electronic delivery because it was easier. Thomas exhaled slowly. Did you ask her to? No, I looked toward the counter where my mail usually sat. For weeks, Lauren had been bringing it inside before I even reached the mailbox. She called it helping. She brought groceries every Tuesday and arranged them in my pantry without asking where I wanted anything. She scheduled a plumber when the downstairs sink dripped. She changed the garage keypad because she said the old numbers were not secure. Michael had laughed when I complained. Mom, let Lauren handle it. She is better with paperwork and technology. At the time I had been grateful. I had been tired. Grief had made simple things feel heavier, and my knee surgery had made stairs an argument I had to win several times a day. Lauren seemed willing to carry what I could not. Now I wondered what else she had carried away. Thomas, I said, there is a notary seal on the document. I saw it. Can that help? Possibly. The name is Patricia Doyle. I recognized it immediately. Patricia witnessed documents for us years ago. That is why this is interesting, Thomas said. Her commission history may matter. I am going to contact her, but I want you to act normally until I know more. I almost laughed. Normally, while my clothes are in trash bags. Especially then. After we ended the call, I walked upstairs. The bags were still lined against my dresser. I pulled one open and began putting my clothes back into the closet one piece at a time. Not angrily. Carefully. My blue blouse. My gray slacks. Richard's favorite cardigan. By 10:30 the room looked like mine again. At 11:12, Lauren's car pulled into the driveway. I heard the front door open with the spare key she still had. Eleanor, she called. I brought coffee. Her voice was warm again. Too warm. I stepped into the hallway. She was holding 2 paper cups and smiling as if the previous evening had never happened. I thought we could talk about your move, she said. I looked at the coffee, then at her. That sounds fine. Her smile widened. She believed I had softened overnight. I let her believe it. Then I noticed the folder tucked beneath her arm. Lauren set one coffee on the kitchen table and placed the folder beside it. I brought the paperwork we talked about, she said. Nothing complicated. Just some options. I sat across from her and wrapped both hands around the paper cup without drinking. Options for what? For making things easier. There was that word again. Easier. Lauren opened the folder and turned the first page toward me. It was a brochure for a senior living community in Midlothian. Bright dining room. Smiling women holding paintbrushes. A courtyard with white rocking chairs. They have transportation, meals, housekeeping, everything, she said. You would not have to worry about the stairs here or the yard or repairs. And this house? I asked. She hesitated just long enough for me to notice. Michael and I would handle it. Handle it how? We would make sure everything was taken care of properly. I nodded as if that answered something. Lauren relaxed. She slid another paper toward me. But before I could read the top line, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen and stood. I need to take this. She walked into the dining room and lowered her voice. I did not touch the folder. Instead, I watched her reflection in the glass cabinet Richard had built himself. She was smiling at whoever was on the phone. Yes, she said softly. She is being reasonable today. A pause. No, I have not gotten the signature yet. I looked down at my coffee. I could hear Richard's voice in my memory, not as something mystical, just the practical tone he used whenever a salesman rushed us. If somebody needs your signature today, Eleanor, that is exactly when you should wait until tomorrow. Lauren returned a minute later. Sorry about that. Everything all right? Just work. She sat down and tapped the folder. You can keep these and look them over. I will. Michael can come by tonight if you have questions. I think I would rather have Thomas Reed look at them. The room changed. Lauren's smile stayed in place, but the warmth disappeared from it. Thomas. Richard's attorney. I know who he is. She folded her hands. Eleanor, this is not really a legal matter. Then he should have no trouble confirming that. She stared at me for a moment, then gave a small laugh. Of course. If that makes you comfortable. She stood, gathered her purse, and kissed the air near my cheek. I just want you to feel supported. After she left, I locked the door. Then I opened the folder. The brochure was on top. Under it was a document titled Durable Power of Attorney. Beneath that was an authorization allowing Michael to manage real estate transactions on my behalf. I read every page twice. Neither document had been signed. That was the good news. The bad news was that my name had already been typed beneath every signature line. At 11:47, Thomas called again. I found Patricia Doyle, he said. And I found something else. I carried the folder into the living room and sat in Richard's chair. What? Patricia retired from notary work almost a year before the date on that deed. I looked toward the front window. Lauren's car was gone. Then the seal cannot be right. That is my concern. Thomas paused. There is more. The county filing was submitted electronically by a document preparation service. I am tracing who paid them. Do you think Michael knows? I asked. Thomas did not answer immediately. I think we should stop guessing and start documenting. That sentence steadied me. Guessing belonged to fear. Documenting belonged to facts. What do you need from me? Every paper Lauren gives you. Every message. Every date you remember. And Eleanor, do not confront either of them yet. I looked at the folder on my lap. I will not. After the call, I opened a spiral notebook from the kitchen drawer. On the first page, I wrote March 18th, the date of the signature I had never made. Under that, I wrote Lauren handled mail. Garage code changed. Bank statements stopped. Then I added today's date and the words power of attorney. By the time I finished, the page no longer looked like a family disagreement. It looked like a timeline. The next morning, Thomas asked me to meet him at his office downtown. I arrived 10 minutes early with the folder Lauren had left, the yellow envelope from Richard, and my spiral notebook tucked inside a canvas tote bag. Thomas had aged since I last saw him, but his office looked exactly the same. Dark wood shelves, framed diplomas, a brass clock that ticked louder than necessary. He closed the door, read through my notes, then placed the questionable deed beside the original. There is enough here to justify concern, he said. But I want Patricia to see this in person. An hour later, a woman with short white hair and a navy raincoat stepped into the conference room. Patricia Doyle was 72 now. I remembered her immediately. She had notarized documents for Richard and me years ago when we refinanced the house. She greeted me warmly. Then Thomas handed her the deed. Her expression changed before she reached the signature page. She adjusted her glasses and looked at the seal. I did not notarize this. Thomas leaned forward. Are you certain? Completely. Patricia tapped the page. That is an old-style seal connected to my name, but my commission had already expired by this date. I stopped notarizing almost a year earlier. I looked at my signature again. Seeing someone else confirm what I already knew made the room feel colder. Patricia turned to me. Do you remember signing anything like this? No. Were you even available on this date? I was recovering from surgery. Thomas opened his laptop and pulled up the county filing record. The document was submitted electronically 2 days later. Patricia shook her head. Then somebody used my information after I stopped working. Thomas printed several pages and placed them in a new folder. This gives us something concrete. I stared at the stack. What happens now? Now we build the cleanest record possible. We do not accuse anyone before we know who prepared what, who paid for it, and who benefited. That word stayed with me. Benefited. Thomas then showed me another document he had obtained that morning. Hawthorne Residential Holdings had been formed 5 months earlier. The registered mailing address belonged to Michael and Lauren. I already knew that much. What I did not know was that the company had listed my property as its principal asset in a private financing inquiry. They used my house? I asked. They referenced the property, Thomas said carefully. That does not mean the transaction was completed, but it suggests this was not created casually. I looked down at my notebook. Lauren had begun handling my mail shortly after the company was formed. The timing clicked into place so neatly that I almost wished it did not. Patricia reached across the table and touched the edge of the folder. Eleanor, keep every original you have somewhere secure. Thomas nodded. I agree. Not at home. By noon, I had rented a safe deposit box at a bank near Carytown. I placed the original deed, the questionable copy, Richard's handwritten envelope, and copies of Thomas's records inside. When the metal box slid back into the vault, I felt something in me settle. Not relief. Control. I returned home just after 2. Lauren's car was already in the driveway. Michael's truck was parked behind it. They were sitting at my kitchen table when I walked in. Lauren smiled. Michael did not. A fresh folder lay between them. Mom, he said, we need to finish this today. I set my purse on the counter. Finish what? Lauren opened the folder and turned it toward me. Just the paperwork so we can move forward. I glanced down. Power of attorney. Real estate authorization. The same pages as before, now marked with small yellow tabs beside every place they wanted my signature. You already read these, Lauren said. There is no reason to delay. I pulled out a chair and sat down. Actually, there is. Michael finally looked at me. What reason? I folded my hands on the table. My attorney has not finished reviewing them. Lauren's face went still. You took them to Thomas? Yes. Michael looked at her, then back at me. That small glance told me more than either of them realized. Lauren closed the folder slowly. Eleanor, bringing lawyers into family matters only makes things harder. I looked at the yellow tabs lined up across the pages. Then perhaps family should stop bringing me legal documents. For the first time since the trash bags appeared, neither of them had an answer. That evening, after Michael and Lauren left, I sat alone at the kitchen table until the light outside faded from gold to gray. Their folder was gone, but the yellow tabs stayed in my mind. Sign here. Sign there. Make it easy. Make it official. I thought about everything Thomas had said. Do not accuse anyone yet. Let the facts come to you. Richard used to say something similar whenever he was negotiating a contract. People reveal themselves faster when they think you have already agreed with them. The next morning I called Lauren. I have been thinking, I said. There was a pause. About the community? Yes. Her voice softened immediately. Eleanor, I am glad. I really am. I knew you would see that we are trying to help. I looked across the living room at Richard's chair. Maybe I have been holding on too tightly. That is understandable. She sounded almost tender now. This house carries a lot of memories. It does. You deserve something easier. Easier again. I let the word pass. Why do you not come by this afternoon? I said. We can talk. She arrived at 2:30 with lemon cookies from a bakery I liked and a fresh cup of coffee exactly the way I took it, 2 creams, no sugar. 3 days earlier, she had packed my clothes in trash bags. Now she was calling me Mom. I knew you would feel better once you had time to process everything, she said. I smiled. You may have been right. Her shoulders relaxed. She sat beside me on the couch instead of across the room. Michael has been worried about you. Has he? Very worried. She reached into her handbag and pulled out another folder. This one was thinner. I brought something simpler. Just in case you are ready. I opened it slowly. The first page was an application for the senior community. Nothing alarming. The second was a medical release. The third was titled Authorization to Sell Real Property. I read the first paragraph twice. It gave Michael authority to negotiate, list, and complete the sale of my home on my behalf. I looked up. Lauren was watching my face. That is only so Michael can handle the stressful parts, she said. You would not have to deal with agents or inspections. What if I am not ready to sell? There is no hurry. Her answer came too quickly. This only gives us flexibility. Us. She smiled. The family. I turned another page. There were references to listing expenses, closing documents, and proceeds distribution. This is more detailed than I expected. Standard language. You understand all of it? Enough. Then I am lucky to have you. She smiled wider. That was when I knew the performance was working. I picked up a pen and held it over the first yellow tab. Lauren leaned forward slightly. I let the tip hover above the line. Then I set the pen down. My eyes are tired today. Her smile tightened. It is only a few signatures. I would rather read everything tonight. I can explain it. I know. I closed the folder. Leave it with me. She hesitated. For a second I thought she might refuse. Then she pushed the folder toward me. Of course. After she left, I waited until her car disappeared at the end of Hawthorne Lane. Then I called Thomas. She brought me another document. What kind? Authorization to sell the house. There was silence on the line. Did you sign it? No good. I looked at the folder on the table. Thomas, I think they are getting impatient. Then we are getting close. Close to what? To finding out what they actually plan to do with the property. I opened the document again. Near the bottom was a company name I had not noticed before. Hawthorne Residential Holdings. Same company. Same address. Same pattern. I read the line to Thomas. He told me not to touch anything else. I am going to pull the company records in full. The next morning he called before 9. His first sentence was quiet. Eleanor. I found the manager listed for the company. I already knew Lauren was involved. I expected to hear her name. Thomas paused. It is Michael. For a moment, I thought I had misunderstood him. Michael? I asked. Thomas repeated it. Michael Whitmore is listed as the manager of Hawthorne Residential Holdings. I stood at the kitchen counter with the phone pressed to my ear and looked toward the framed school photograph of my son that still sat beside the fruit bowl. He had been 9 in that picture, missing one front tooth, his hair combed badly because Richard had gotten him ready that morning. I remembered packing his lunches, wading through soccer practices in folding chairs, sitting beside his hospital bed when he had his appendix removed at 14. Memory has a cruel way of arriving exactly when you do not need it. Are you certain? I asked. I downloaded the filing directly from the state records. Thomas paused. His name is on the formation documents. I sat down slowly. I had spent days allowing myself one small comfort. Maybe Lauren had pushed him. Maybe Michael had signed something without understanding it. Maybe he had simply failed to stop his wife because avoiding conflict was easier than defending his mother. Those possibilities disappeared one by one as Thomas spoke. There is something else, he said. The company requested a property valuation last month. For my house. Yes. How much? The preliminary estimate was $685,000. I looked around the kitchen. The cabinets Richard had refinished by hand. The small burn mark near the stove from the Thanksgiving, I forgot a dish towel beside a hot pan. The pencil marks inside the pantry door where we measured Michael every birthday until he was 16. $685,000. To them, perhaps that was all it had become. Who did the valuation? I asked. A real estate agent named Claire Morgan. I spoke with her office. She was told the property would be available soon. By whom? She would not discuss details without authorization, but the contact information attached to the inquiry belongs to Michael. I closed my eyes for 1 second. Then I opened my notebook. Tell me the date. Thomas gave it to me. I wrote it beneath the other entries. Company formed. Mail redirected. Surgery. Questionable deed filed. Valuation requested. Close packed. Sale authorization presented. The pattern no longer required imagination. Eleanor, Thomas said, I need to ask you something difficult. Do you still want to give Michael the benefit of the doubt? I looked at the page. I want the truth. Those are not always the same thing. He was quiet. Good. Then let us get the truth cleanly. We agreed that I would not change my behavior yet. If Michael and Lauren believed I was preparing to move, they might continue showing me what they intended. That afternoon Michael called. His voice was gentler than it had been in days. Mom, Lauren said the conversation went well yesterday. It was useful. She said you might be ready to move forward. I let a few seconds pass. I am considering it. I could hear him breathe easier. That is good. I know this has been emotional. Yes. We are only thinking about your future. I looked at the notebook in front of me. And the house. He paused. What about it? Lauren said you would handle the sale. Another pause. Longer this time. Eventually. If that is what makes sense. Have you spoken to an agent already? Silence. Then he gave a small laugh. We have looked at some possibilities. Nothing serious. I wrote down the exact words. Nothing serious. Who is Claire Morgan? I asked. The silence changed. I could almost feel him. Sitting straighter wherever he was. Why? Her name appeared on a piece of paper. What paper? I do not remember. That was a lie, and he knew it, but it was the first lie I had told my son in years. Mom, if you find documents you do not understand, send them to me before you worry yourself. I will keep that in mind. After we ended the call, Thomas sent me a copy of the company formation record. I opened it on my tablet. Michael's name was there in plain type. Below it was his electronic signature. No confusion. No misunderstanding. No Lauren standing over him. Just Michael Whitmore, manager. I printed the page and placed it inside my folder. That evening I received a text from Lauren. Family meeting Friday at 3? We can bring Claire and get everything organized. I stared at the message for several seconds before replying. Friday works. Then I called Thomas. They are bringing the real estate agent. Good, he said. Let them. I looked around my quiet house and felt something shift inside me. Until that moment, I had been gathering evidence because I was afraid of what they might do. Now I was gathering it because I knew exactly what I was going to stop. Friday arrived with the kind of bright Virginia afternoon that made the house look almost younger than it was. Sunlight stretched across the hardwood floor, catching the small scratches Richard used to complain about and never quite managed to sand out. At 2:45, I placed 3 glasses of iced tea on the dining room table and set my notebook in the drawer beside me. Thomas had told me to keep everything simple. Listen. Let them speak. Do not interrupt too early. At exactly 3, Michael pulled into the driveway. Lauren came with him, carrying a leather folder. A silver sedan stopped behind them. Claire Morgan stepped out wearing a cream blazer and carrying a tablet. She was younger than I expected, probably in her mid-40s, with the polished confidence of someone used to walking into homes and talking about numbers. Lauren introduced us as if nothing about the situation were unusual. Claire has been helping us understand the market, she said. Claire smiled professionally. Your home is in a very strong area, Mrs. Whitmore. Mrs. Whitmore. At least someone remembered whose house it was. We sat down. Michael took the chair across from me. Lauren sat beside him. Claire opened her tablet and began explaining recent sales in the neighborhood, estimated closing costs, and what she called a realistic listing range. $670,000 to $695,000. I watched Michael nod as if we had discussed those numbers together many times. If we move quickly, Claire said, the property could attract strong interest before fall inventory increases. I turned to Michael. Move quickly. Only if you are comfortable, he said. Lauren leaned forward. Nobody is rushing you, Eleanor. I almost admired how easily she said it. Claire looked between us. I was told the transition to senior living was already being arranged. By whom? I asked. The room went quiet for half a second. Claire glanced at Michael. My initial contact was through Mr. Whitmore. Michael shifted in his chair. Lauren spoke before he could. We were planning ahead. Before I agreed to move? I asked. Planning is not the same as selling. Lauren's voice had sharpened slightly. Claire lowered her tablet. If there is any uncertainty about authorization, I would rather pause. Michael smiled at her. There is no issue. Mom is just emotional about the house. I looked at him. Emotional. Another convenient word. Too old. Too overwhelmed. Too attached. Anything except informed. Lauren opened her folder. We brought the authorization again. Once Eleanor signs, Claire can handle the rest without burdening her. She placed the document in front of me and slid a pen across the table. I looked at the yellow tabs. Same pages. Same signature lines. Before I sign, I said, I have one question. Lauren smiled. Of course. I turned to Claire. Have you ever seen a deed showing Hawthorne Residential Holdings as owner of this property? Claire's expression changed. Michael stopped moving. Lauren's fingers tightened around the edge of her folder. Claire answered carefully. I was provided a copy of a recorded deed connected to that company, yes. I nodded. And who gave it to you? She looked at Michael. That was answer enough. Lauren reached for the pen. Eleanor. This is getting unnecessarily complicated. No, I said. It is finally getting simple. The doorbell rang. Michael looked toward the hallway. Lauren did not. She already knew something had gone wrong. I stood and opened the door. Thomas Reed was there, holding a slim briefcase. Patricia Doyle stood beside him in her navy coat. When Lauren saw Patricia, the color drained from her face. Thomas stepped into the dining room and placed 2 documents on the table. One was the original deed. The other was the deed filed 4 months earlier. Patricia sat beside him. Claire looked from one page to the other. What is this? Michael asked. Thomas answered calmly. A title problem. Lauren stood. We are not doing this. Actually, I said, we are. Thomas pointed to the signature page. Mrs. Whitmore states she did not sign this document. Ms. Doyle states she did not notarize it. Her commission had expired before the date shown. Michael looked at Lauren. Lauren looked at me. Eleanor, you do not understand what you are accusing us of. I met her eyes. I am not accusing anyone. I placed my hand on the original deed. I am asking why my house was being prepared for sale before I agreed to leave it. Claire slowly closed her tablet. Michael opened his mouth then stopped. Thomas turned another page toward him. Hawthorne Residential Holdings. Manager Michael Whitmore. For the first time all afternoon, my son had nothing prepared to say. Michael stared at the formation record as if the words might rearrange themselves if he waited long enough. Lauren remained standing beside him, one hand resting on the back of her chair. Claire had moved her tablet into her bag. I think I should step away from this transaction until ownership is fully resolved, she said. Thomas nodded. That would be appropriate. Claire looked at me. Mrs. Whitmore, I was told the family had already agreed to the sale. I am sorry if that was not accurate. It was not, I said. She left quietly. When the front door closed, the dining room felt larger. Michael finally looked at me. Mom, this was supposed to protect the house. From whom? He opened his mouth, but Lauren answered. From unexpected expenses. From taxes. From you having to manage everything alone. Thomas folded his hands on the table. A limited liability company controlled by Michael does not become necessary simply because his mother dislikes paperwork. Lauren ignored him. Eleanor, we were trying to create a structure that would make things easier after you moved. Before I decided to move, you would have decided eventually. There it was. Not concern. Certainty. They had not been waiting for my decision. They had been waiting for my cooperation. Michael leaned toward me. Mom, I should have explained the company. I know that. But I thought if everything was organized first, you would not feel overwhelmed. Did you organize the questionable deed too? His eyes shifted toward Lauren. A small movement. Enough. Lauren crossed her arms. Nobody was trying to steal anything. Patricia spoke for the first time since Thomas explained the documents. My name and expired notary information appeared on a paper I did not witness. That is not a family misunderstanding. Lauren's face tightened. Maybe the document service made an error. Thomas slid another page across the table. Then the appropriate next step is to let the title professionals determine exactly how that error occurred. Until then, no transfer, listing, or sale will proceed. Michael looked at me. You are stopping everything? Yes. Because of paperwork? I almost smiled. You packed my belongings before I had agreed to leave. You formed a company connected to my address. You contacted an agent before speaking to me. You brought me documents giving you authority to sell my home. Paperwork is exactly what I should be paying attention to. He leaned back. For the first time, he looked less defensive than tired. Lauren said this was the best way. Lauren turned sharply toward him. Do not put this on me. I am not. You signed the company documents. Because you said Thomas would make everything complicated if Mom knew too early. The room became very still. Lauren looked at him. Michael seemed to realize what he had said only after the words were out. I did not interrupt. Silence had become useful to me. Finally, Lauren picked up her purse. I am not staying here while everyone treats me like some kind of criminal. No one used that word, Thomas said. Then stop acting like it. She headed toward the hallway. I stood before she reached the door. Your spare key. She stopped. What? The key to my house. Eleanor, this is ridiculous. The key. Michael reached into his pocket first. He placed his on the entry table. Lauren stared at him, then removed hers from her key ring and set it beside his. 2 small pieces of metal. I had trusted them with those keys because I thought access meant family. I understood now that access needed boundaries. They left without another word. The next morning, a locksmith changed the front and back locks and reset the garage keypad. Thomas filed the necessary notices to challenge the questionable title document and prevent any sale while the ownership issue was corrected. I also met with him to revise my estate plan. Michael would no longer have automatic authority over my finances or property. An independent fiduciary would handle those responsibilities if I ever became unable to do so myself. 3 weeks passed before Michael called. Mom, are you really going to shut me out over this? I stood in my bedroom, holding Richard's navy cardigan before placing it back in the closet. I am not shutting you out, Michael. I am changing what you are allowed to control. He was silent. You are destroying the family, he said at last. I looked toward the window, where afternoon sunlight fell across 6 empty black trash bags folded neatly on the floor. No, I said. I am only refusing to pretend nothing happened. After the call, I carried the bags downstairs. Lauren had left a few personal items in the guest room over the years: a sweater, 2 books, a cosmetic case, and a pair of shoes. I placed them carefully inside one bag and set it on the covered porch. No note, no argument, no performance. Then I returned upstairs, opened the closet, and hung Richard's cardigan where it had always belonged. The original deed was already secure in the bank vault. The locks were new. The house was quiet again. But this time the quiet did not feel empty. Felt like mine. Subscribe to EverNest Stories for more emotional family betrayal stories, inheritance secrets, and mother's justice. And watch the next story on screen now.